Well, a very good morning to you, Desiree, and good morning to our SABC viewers. I'm with my colleague here, Ndabezinhle Kumalo. We are waiting for the marchers to gather here. Where we are now, we are at the King Dunuzulu Park here in the Durban CBD. As you can see from the visuals that Ndabezinhle is showing you, it seems that no one is here yet. We are seeing a small group of people just by us here who have gathered, but it's not the number that we're expecting today. What we know is that a group, a civil organization, Justice for Phoenix Massacre Victims, has organized this march calling for justice to be served for the victims of what has been now called the Phoenix Massacre. We are aware that the police are investigating 20 murder cases in the province. Just recently, you'll remember that 7 people appeared at the Verele Magistrates Court, which we were told that that case is now going to be heard on camera. As you can see, a heavy police presence here today. But I have with me the convener of Justice for Phoenix Massacre Victims, Jackie Shandu. Sir, thank you very much for your time. Just tell us the purpose of the march.
Thank you for the opportunity, and good morning to the viewers at home. The purpose of the march is primarily to pursue justice for the families of the victims who have lost their lives, but it is not only victims that have lost their lives that are suffering. Those are not the only victims, the deceased. There are a lot of surviving victims that we have interacted with, that we have been visiting, and that we have been collecting their stories from them. And we are all traumatized. Some of them have lost their limbs, some of them have bullet holes, some of them have wounds from machetes and golf clubs. Some of them are on the verge of total mental collapse in terms of the anxiety, the trauma, the fear. So it's a state of utter tragedy and desperation. Thus far, the total count thus far is 74. So it's not 20. From Phoenix alone is 74. We were at the Phoenix mortuary early yesterday morning, and we got that figure from them. There are 43 unclaimed bodies that is still are trapped there at the mortuary, including 4 foreign nationals from Tanzania who were also there trying to retrieve the bodies of their victims, struggling to get them repatriated to be buried back in Tanzania. So it's a state of real sadness, because this is one massacre that was totally unnecessary. In terms of the evidence coming out, there was no threat to life. There were no attacks on the Indian community. This is just an uncalled for racial war that Indians have decided to embark upon, including targeting vulnerable people such as women who were also stopped, taken out of their cars, shot at and stabbed, their cars burnt. There is no valid explanation, none whatsoever, throughout the looting spree that took place in parts of KZN and Gauteng. We don't have a single story of communities that were attacked. We don't have a single story of individuals. The wrath of the people was directed at these commercial institutions such as shopping centers and shopping malls. And they were looting food and things of that nature. There was no threat to life. There was no reason whatsoever that warranted this kind of slaughter on such a massive scale. We are sitting with a massacre that is more than double the figure at Marikana. That is more than the figure in Sharpeville in 1960. We are yet to come to terms as a nation of the gravity of this calamity that has just taken place. And we are shocked that seemingly it's business as usual, especially from the seats of power. You know, President Ramaphosa is yet to set foot in Phoenix, and we're talking about 74 lives unnecessarily lost this is a tragedy on a massive scale. And as some leaders of the ANC Youth League were saying a few days ago, there is a serious vacuum of leadership in this country that we can just pretend that it's business as usual and we must go on as per normal. So this is the reason we are saying it's not going to happen. We're marching to the local state here. We're making serious demands in terms of our memorandum. We want Indians to be removed from BEE and affirmative action status. We want a new audit of the composition of the employee, in particular here in eThekwini, because we are talking about the 16 billion rand annual budget municipality here, and a lion's share of its procurement spend goes to white big business and Indian big business, and Africans are completely marginalized. It comes to an end now. The Phoenix massacre reminds us of these unresolved, serious contradictions in South Africa that we were swept under the carpet in 1994, that the political elite decided to treat them as if they do not exist. So those are the things that we are now saying we can no longer afford to have these things unattended to. They need to be resolved, and we think that eThekwini would be a perfect starting point. Secondly, of course, we are going to ensure that a commission of inquiry is established that will have thorough and comprehensive terms of reference so that we can get into the bottom of what really transpired, who were the plotters, who were the accomplices, who transported the guns. We understand that some of the guns that were used came from unregistered private security companies. So we want all these things to come in the open and be spoken about. We also want compensation and reparations for the families of the victims, those who are deceased and those who are still alive. There were a lot of breadwinners that were killed. There are also students at very tender age. Some of them were seeing date of birth 2005, 2004, 2003. So we're angry as the African community, but at the same time we're traumatized, we're shocked, and we want to pursue justice through any means necessary.
Yesterday, we received an alert from the Premier's office that the Premier has sat down with the Moral Regeneration Council, and these things that you are talking about, those are the things that they agreed to deliver to the province, assistance to the victims, and have continued dialogues, peace dialogues in the province. What is your take on that?
It's absolute nonsense. That's precisely the huge leadership vacuum we have in this country. There is a monstrous criminal act that has been committed here. A racial, an attempted genocide, a massacre motivated purely by race. They are talking about moral regeneration as a starting point. The starting point can only be pursuit of justice, in terms of making sure that perpetrators get what they deserve. Secondly, victims are thoroughly given reparations, are given counseling. That is where we should be looking at. Now, peace, the concept of peace, moral generation, all these nice sounding phrases and concepts have always been abused, misused, and weaponized against the African people in South Africa. We're not interested in those things. It's the same Premier that his first remarks were that we must talk peace and we must bring people together. I don't think that what has transpired calls for that kind of approach. What has happened calls for an approach that says we are going to pursue justice, but we are also going to look at the primary source. The primary source of this thing is the economic power that Indians have over Africans.
Mr. Jackie Shandu, because of time, sorry, say we'll have to stop it there. That was Jackie Shandu, the convener of the Phoenix massacre victims, they're calling for the justice for the massacre victims in Phoenix. But for now, because of time, let's take it back to in studio.
Bongani, thank you so much for bringing us up to date there. Let's take you